Hello everyone, Ailuromage, the Magic History Cat here. Different style of video here. I just wanted to share my early thoughts on Dawntrail after completing the main story. Don't worry, I will not be giving away any big spoilers without a very clear warning that will come later in this video, and I will call it out. Of course, due to just the nature of this video, a lot of thoughts will be a bit scattered, and there's like thousands of things I'm holding back on saying to just keep this video as short as possible. I know Dawntrail has a lot of mixed reception, and as someone who has been with Final Fantasy XIV since A Realm Reborn launched in 2013, a player of 10 years, I just wanted to talk a little about my feelings. Keep in mind, these are very much my very early thoughts. I will be going back through the story and my opinions will probably change on some things, though there are a few key feelings that will most likely remain the same, as there's definitely plenty of things I hope to discuss in videos in the future. Overall, Dawntrail is definitely an attempt at an all-new arc. Everyone knows this, but we were all wondering how well it would be done. First things first, Tuliolol is beautiful. It's a very pretty hub world, the colors are vibrant, the music is very different than what we're used to, but fun nonetheless. I think the hub world is wonderful, and I genuinely do enjoy being in it. Learning about a completely different culture is what Final Fantasy XIV is all about, and experiencing a new adventure. Despite us being in this tropical landscape, every location we visit in Yogg-Tyrol feels distinct from each other, and the details in the culture and surroundings is all there. The side characters I feel all had something interesting to enjoy about them in their respective locations. There are a few that are definitely more blank slate than others, but I genuinely grew a liking toward some of them. And the main cast goes without being said, our closest friends and allies that have endured the last in real life decade worth of experiences are always nice to see and hear from. As far as the classes go, I have only experienced Dark Knight, which is my main class, and for the most part it's been relatively untouched and just given a couple of quality of life changes and cooler animations for their main cycle. I eventually do wish to try Viper as it looks fun, and of course I will eventually get around to leveling some of the other classes and examine their ability names and such as I have done in past videos. The dungeons vary in enjoyment for sure, and one of them for me definitely stands out in a very unique way unlike any of the others. In terms of pure gameplay and mechanics, not relating to story or anything else, there are some fun and interesting new mechanics through the dungeons and the trials, and it really helps keep things exciting. I did enjoy all the dungeons and trials except for maybe one of them. Overall, the story did touch my emotions at a few points, and that will definitely be subjective to a lot of people, but I feel like of all the concepts explored throughout the expansion, there will be something that resonates for everyone, and hopefully that moment for you won't be buried under some of the duller parts of the story. I did enjoy Dawntrail, and it's definitely not as powerful as the others, but just given what expansions like Endwalker was, you can't really top that right after. The best idea is to just start a new adventure, and thus the slow burn comes with it, just as we did all the way back in A Realm Reborn. For those of you who may be new to the series or started playing only a couple of years ago, A Realm Reborn is a lot different now than it was before. A Realm Reborn was a very slow burn. It has been condensed and changed a lot over time, streamlining a lot of the content and changing all of those old dungeons. I remember the hours and hours of sometimes really nothing actually happening, but it was all a setup for things later. As for the music, now I am someone that really loves the music in this game. I own almost every album, only missing a few. I listen to the music regularly, even when not playing the game. I actually did briefly work as an audio tech before becoming a historian, so music is very important to me, and I believe it can truly make or break sections of a video game based on its use and application. I have tons of respect for the music in this game and tons of respect for Soken as a composer. So for this expansion, overall the music was good. There were some tracks that really stood out and some that are there to fill the space as necessary. The lineup certainly was not as strong as Shadowbringers or Endwalker in my opinion, but there are some songs I really enjoyed. However, there is one song in particular, and it is a rather important one that I really did just not enjoy at at all. The thing with the music in this game is that when comparing songs to others, some will always be better than others. That's just how the law of comparison works. But this particular song in Dawntrail was different. This is not a matter of comparing something like Ominous Prognostics to On Blade's Edge. This was a matter of the song itself just being poor. I don't know how else to describe it. I think this was the first time in 10 years of this game I have ever heard a song and just thought it wasn't good. Again, music is very subjective, so others may feel differently. My opinion on music does not equal objective fact, so please keep that in mind. With that being said, it is now time to enter spoiler territory. This is your warning. This is huge spoiler territory ahead. Warning, warning, so stop right now if you don't want to hear any further. Okay. So once again, these are my early scattered thoughts. The early part of the game is slow and some parts are rather lengthy. Interacting with the new locations and characters help, but it does drag a bit. The 4 promises off the bat seem very one-dimensional, but this grows over time. They all have a goal and a reason for that goal, even if it's not as well explored as I may have hoped. I'm going to get this out of the way right now. There is a lot of discussion over Wuklamot, and I'm not going to go on for 45 minutes about this character. I thought the character was just okay pretty much throughout the entire experience until the 3rd act, which I will get to in order to discuss this. Zorolja and Bakul Jaja feel like the same character at the beginning, but start to diverge as they go on. While they both experience a similar inner struggle, the way it develops for them over time was interesting for me. With Zorolja being a birth thought to be genetically impossible and being their resilient son, and Bakul Jaja being a 1 in 100 successful birth of his people. They both wanted to live up to their expectations as best they could, and both struggled with insecurity and doubt. For the most part, Bakul Jaja is the main antagonist for the 1st act of the story, and he really is just an annoying bully of a person, causing problems in the 1st dungeon and then being the reason why the 1st trial even happens when he releases that ancient beast. Now, I actually really enjoyed that area. The Yakoi giants were fun to learn about, and their culture is one I respect as an actual historian in real life. The act of recording and writing down everything that happens to your civilization so that it can all be remembered when death comes is beautiful to me, and something I wish every ancient civilization did, as the preservation of knowledge is something I am deeply passionate about as a person in the real world. So this resonated with me in a heavy way. Getting back to the promises, Kona as a character is alright. I do like how he and Wuklamot have a healthy sibling relationship and they love each other a lot. Them both becoming the Dawn Servant at the end to symbolize the 2 heads of their father I think worked well and didn't feel forced as I've seen some others say. It clearly works in this context, having both of them be the heads of reason and resolve. Kona also does provide a very unique angle during the Rite of Secession where he wants to implement tons of technology to keep his people safe, and it's a great storytelling segue into that final act of the game where the excess of technology can lead to unforeseen consequences. Wuklamot is very forward about peace and hope like her father. I actually did enjoy Galul Jaja. I think he was fun to interact with and see. I wish we could have interacted with him longer actually. It's also nice to see Wuklamot grow a little at the start, being so naive. She's basically a city girl that wants to run a country but doesn't actually know anything about anyone. It's a nice part of the story to see her truly learn about her people that she loves, and we get to learn about them with her. Wuklamot definitely has an overwhelming amount of screen time. It's very clear she is the face of Dawntrail by far. I understand the Rite of Secession means we will follow her for a great deal of time, but she really does absorb a lot of the spotlight to the point where the main character and the Scions just sort of sit behind on a leash in the background. So many moments occur where we want to step forward and do something, but for some reason or another we're kept back and just watch things happen. Still, I was okay with her as a character up until that 3rd act. Zorolja is very much kind of in the background up until that 2nd act, which is also where Bakul Jaja changes as well, and it's where these 2 really start to diverge. Now, the 2nd act is where the expansion really hit me for the first time. We learned that the Mamulja are essentially practicing eugenics and allow hundreds and potentially thousands of children die in their shells, essentially just accepting the reality that they will have hundreds of stillbirths to produce 2-headed offspring, all because of a centuries-long conflict and the desire to break out of what they consider to be an endless pit of poverty and despair in the lowest, darkest parts of the jungle. They are hopeless, forgotten, and desperate. We see Bakul Jaja mentally break down, his father disowns him, and he starts to cry and shows us that he does have a heart. He cares so much for the children and feels so much pressure for just existing, the epitome of survivor's guilt of of literal eugenics. We see the urn in his hands, and then not long later we enter the Sky Deep Cenotaph, and that opening scene of the hundreds of urns of dead children in this watery grave hit me. Hearing that musical score in that dungeon was absolutely breathtaking, definitely one of the best songs in Dawntrail by far. We start from that emotional impact and travel to what we know is the Golden City ahead, as the dungeon transitions into a foreign land with technology we have never seen before. The only thing we know about this place is that the Yakoi giants would dream here and left many years ago after mining deeper and deeper, and we see their abandoned tools and quarries in the background. The Yakoi one day left after discovering something that frightened them, which is presumably that final boss of the dungeon right before the door to the Golden City. And if you look closely on that boss, you will see that same triangular symbol that appears on Sphene during the final trial. The Sky Deep Cenotaph is my favorite dungeon in Dawntrail, and it is leaps and bounds ahead of the first two dungeons, which were just okay. That first dungeon being unfortunately very weak in my opinion, but I understand it to be a slow burn first dungeon, which I can forgive. But again, the Sky Deep Cenotaph strikes a chord in a way that no other dungeon did in this expansion for me, and if only the rest of the expansion could have been as powerful as this, because that feeling unfortunately does not last very long. The only dungeon that came anywhere near that same feeling I got from the Sky Deep Cenotaph would have been Alexandria, but it still didn't achieve the same level of emotional impact that the Sky Deep Cenotaph achieved for me. Now, since this is an early thoughts video, I don't want to go on forever, as I just don't want this video to be so long, so please keep in mind there are about 100 thoughts I am holding back on, and 100 more I will hold back on as I talk about the third act, and a lot of this stuff will be explored in the future. Let's skip to that third act, which pretty much begins right after we defeat steroid-boosted Zerolja. Zerolja, of course, took his insecurities the other way of Bakuljaja and lusted for power to prove himself through conquest. The story between him and his son was a bit touching and sad, and to see how his blind ambition drove him to absolute destruction was a classic tale of hubris. Skipping over a million thoughts here, the fight with Zerolja is fun. I really like the mechanics here. We rarely get non-square-like or non-circle-like mechanics in this game, so having mechanics that operated in the shape of a diamond was absolutely really cool. I wish we could have done even more of that before his phase 2, even though his phase 2 was strong and really fun to play as well. The concept of the two queens that want peace between Wuklamont and Sphene, but one kingdom cannot exist with the other is an interesting concept enough, and I like it. However, the reason for it are definitely not equal by any means. Sphene is absolutely an aggressor, and this has nothing to do with them wanting to be left alone. Sphene actively wants to do harm, and she admits to this. There is no seeing eye to eye. This is repeated several times. She makes an effort to make sure that we know this. She even says that she will erase part of her that is good to make sure she becomes a vengeful queen of war and bloodshed, that no matter how many die in her wake, she will kill everyone to save her people. This is repeated so many times, and we see her erase her good side. By the time you reach that last trial, we have gone absolutely past the point of no return. We shut down the terminals, and Sphene is about to launch her conquest and sap the source of all of its aether. At this point, this matter has gone far beyond a squabble between nations and has become something far bigger than Tuliolol, Eorza, and everyone. We enter Sphene's domain, and she teleports our friends out and directly says to us that we are the biggest threat to her plans, and she will trap and kill the Warrior of Light right here and now to prevent any problems down the line. Now, this is our moment. We have waited all this time. There have been so many moments where we've sat back and were held back, and things happened out of our control because we stood by and watched and took little initiative to the matters before us. But now this is serious. This is a conflict bigger than everyone. This is our moment to prove we are the Warrior of Light and the defender of the source. Hydaelyn left us trusting that we will protect the source in her absence, and the 12 do this as well. In Endwalker, we prove to Hydaelyn and the 12 that we are stronger than them. They acknowledge that we will soar to heights beyond their expectations, and that they can all finally rest knowing that we are powerful enough to defend the source and the reflections beyond if necessary from any and all threats. In this moment, we are the Warrior of Light, we are Hydaelyn's champion, and we are going to fulfill our promise and do our duty and vaporize this threat that is actively telling us it is going to swallow the source and travel to every reflection and kill everybody. We enter this trial, and it is a delicious treat. We have been waiting for the entire expansion. The trial itself is so much fun. It's chaotic, it uses new mechanics we've never seen before, it is visual eye candy, and the song is good enough for it even if it's not the most powerful. We are on track to having a satisfying finale to what could be understandably argued as a weaker expansion than its predecessors. We are here to prove we are the Warrior of Light after the journey that we've had, and we want to prove that we can protect the source. And then, yeah, Wuklamot smashes through the walls and enters the fight. When this was happening, all I could think was, oh no, please don't. She literally steps in and starts preaching about peace and comes to her aid, and it has been days since I finished this expansion and I still cannot comprehend why this happened or who thought this was a good idea. Like, were we supposed to cheer or were we supposed to feel emotional here? It makes absolutely no sense. Wuklamot did not do anything to earn this moment as a character, in my opinion. Sphene is beyond the point of return. It's actively implied that even during the fight, she is sapping Aether to empower herself to use against us. This is over. There's no more negotiation for peace at this point. This is beyond Wuklamot, and she really has no business interjecting herself here at all. It's not her place. This is about the Warrior of Light fulfilling their promise to Hydaelyn as the only thing standing between a threat so powerful that it would make the Ascians cry, and the source and every reflection with it. She does not belong here. She didn't earn this moment like all of the Scions did during the Endsinger fight after 8 in real life years of growth and development. Wuklamot just hit the stage and upstaged the actions of the Scions themselves. Upstaged Grahatia, Y'shtola, the twins, Urianger, and Thancred, and everybody. Remember, the Scions essentially died. They accepted death to allow us, the Warrior of Light, to move forward in order to defeat the Endsinger. Wuklamot was not the only person who entered the room with us. Are the writers implying that she is stronger than everyone who came with us? Is she stronger than the Warrior of Light now to hold Sphene back by herself? She single-handedly holds Sphene back in this scene, and it makes no sense from a story, writing, or logical perspective. In fact, on Reddit, people were saying that once Wuklamot enters the fight, you can all just actually stop moving, and Wuklamot does so much damage she can finish the boss herself. It's so baffling and out of place, and it honestly soured the trial for me, and soured the character of Wuklamot a little bit by doing this. It's like either the writers think that we absolutely love Wuklamot so much at this point to be happy that she stepped in, or they are trying to force us to like her. And even if the writers could not sleep at night without having to have a moment where we get saved by our allies, which should not have happened in the first place here by any character. I don't care who the character is. This was the Warrior of Light's moment. No one else should have stepped in here. And what made it worse is that the VA for Wuklamot just sounded bored when this happened. I didn't get a sense of emotion behind the delivery of the lines in this scene at all. I genuinely cannot wrap my head around this moment, and I know I've been going on about it forever now, but it's so baffling to me that this decision was made. So then the trial just ends unceremoniously, like it just kind of ends. And Wuklamot and Sphene say some stuff about peace or whatever. At this point, I don't really care about what these two have to say to each other, and then Sphene dies at the end, and then thanks for playing. It was so crazy because the people I was in the trial with just left when it ended. People were talking during some points of the battle, the community was really showing its good side, which I love so much about it. When people died to mechanics, there was some laughter, a few jokes even, but when that fight ended, everyone just left. No one actually even said GG in my trial. No one said anything. It was just over. And then the credits roll and we get that song, the one I mentioned earlier, a song that I truly believe is the first not good song of the game, wrapping up a somewhat disappointing ending. Dawntrail really ended on somewhat of a low for me, unfortunately, and it makes me so sad because if it ended high with just the writers letting the Warrior of Light have their moment that they deserve to prove their promise to our mother Hydaelyn and the 12, that the source is safe with us after all of the growth we have endured, it would have been fine. But robbing the players of this moment and the story of this moment is such a bad writing choice in my opinion. That being said though, although the game itself ended on a bit of a low for me, I'm not going to end this video on a low. I did enjoy the moments we spent exploring Alexandria and the emotional scenes with Kryl and Erenville. I like these two characters a lot and I care about them a lot, so I did feel for their stories here. I especially felt for Erenville because wow, imagine realizing your loved one is dead and you've been interacting with their memories and you never had a chance to really say goodbye to them. And Kryl finally meeting her real parents, even though they were also just memories, was also very touching, and I enjoyed those moments a lot with her. This entire concept is actually something I really wish to explore in the future because it touches on one of my favorite areas of philosophy that have to do with what makes a person them, or how your existence or identity is defined. While Endwalker explores what is the meaning of life, Dawntrail explores the concept of soul and memories, which is a part of philosophical thought that discusses what is the true identity or being of a person. I love this kind of stuff, and I can't wait to talk about it in videos in the future. I want to thank you all so much for watching and listening to my rambling. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I want to see them, and I want to know how people feel about this expansion. Just please keep it respectful. Also, let me know what you thought about this style of video and if you'd be okay with ones like it in the future. Thank you, and remember to pet a cat today.